Well, welcome to Off World with David Eicher. I have a really special episode now because a guy who's become an old friend to me and who has really changed the astronomy world and the science world overall and the world of festivals overall is with us here, astronomer Garik Israelian. And we have quite a story to tell about the Starmus Festival, which we're going to hold again late this year, the eighth one. But Garik, thanks for joining me so much today. It's really special to have you on here with me.
Thank you, David, and thank you for inviting me. Yeah, we have a lot to say.
We have a lot to say. We only have, dozens of guests, many festivals, now 7. We've had incredible adventures around the world. So there's a lot to talk about. Let's go back to the very, very beginning. And that is how Starmus came to be. And it involves you centrally and your old pal, Brian May, who is a PhD astronomer. He also happens to be a guitarist. There was a convergence of you and Brian back some many years ago now, maybe more than 20 years ago now, when Brian went back to finish his PhD, which he left. He went back to Tenerife. He started his PhD, left it nearly finished, and went off and had this band Queen, and they did pretty well in the world of music. And then I think it was Patrick Moore who told him, you should go back and finish your PhD. This led to him being back in Tenerife and getting to know you very well.
Yeah. Well, actually, we met with Brian in 98.
Yes.
In Tenerife.
Yeah.
And very interesting story. I think back in 97, I published a paper about Rigel, Beta Ryan,
Mm-hmm.
and suggesting, it was in monthly notices, I think. This was a paper about prominences, giant loops, which I covered in Rigel from H-alpha observations and I proposed a model that what we are actually observing during years, the long-term monitoring of H-alpha profiles. The only explanation I could come up with that the giant prominences, loops crossing our line of sight, and suddenly we could see the H-alpha line going from emission to absorption and shifting from blue to red. And so I put a very simple model and then I had an idea as I imagine, because if we don't understand the physics of prominences in massive stars, which cannot have magnetic fields, is it possible that the sun will have a giant prominence which will come and, destroy life on Earth? It became an idea for a sci-fi film. I thought that's a very cool thing that probably come up with a film about a giant prominence. And I wrote a treatment with a friend, my colleague Alistair Graham, who was a PhD postdoc, very young terms. And Al was a big sci-fi fan, and we were spending all night together talking about many different things in music. And then I came up with this idea, and he said, yeah, let's write down and let's make the treatment. It's brilliant, and make them push this to Hollywood. And so we had the treatment, and somehow we managed to send it to Brian May, because the director of our institute knew Brian from old days instead. And apparently Brian liked the idea, so he received the letter, and he reacted immediately. So I received a phone call saying that Brian wants to talk to you about the treatment. Wow. I said, my God, this is insane. It's the Brian May himself. And so, yeah, and then he was planning a trip to Tenerife. So he came to Tenerife, we met. We tried to push this idea of the loop for about 1 year or 2, but we never managed to make it. But it was good because we met and we became very good friends. And I realized that we shared a lot of things in common. It's a big music fan. My world was in music and Queen fan also. And then Brian, of course, in astronomy, and his connection with Tenerife was very strong. So this connection and me being there, we were communicating quite often. And somehow and then I was involved with the, I should say, smallage in early 2000. There was first observations of acoustic waves in Alpha Centauri and a couple of bright stars. These special observations. And then I was involved in those things and had a project of extrapolating sounds from stars, acoustic waves in stellar atmosphere. So it became kind of a science communication project, kind of to tell the story of stars through sound waves.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought, all right, so this is very interesting. Maybe we can make the music with that, maybe this, maybe that. And so this was going on for years, for many years, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to bring these sounds together, and I went to Montreux to Queen Studio with David Richards,
Wow.
make a mix. That was 2003, 4, 5, I think. Very interesting. Long before Starmus.
Yeah.
Long before
Yeah.
Starmus. And then Brian was slowly getting involved more and more in astronomy communication, Patrick Moore and so on.
Mm-hmm.
I was slowly convincing him to come back to his PhD and finish it. And then finally, I was very happy that he decided, all right, so we can do it. So Brian finished his PhD. We had a lot of communication and working on his PhD as well, helping Brian in many small things. And then so slowly coming to Starmus, deciding to make a big concert in La Palma at the observatory summit.
And that's how the original idea of Starmus began, really, as that event there. Yeah, yeah.
And that was 2008 already.
Yeah, yeah.
We were inaugurating the giant telescope in La Palma, or the GTC, right?
The GTC is still the world's largest.
Still the world's largest.
Yeah.
And the idea was to make a concert at
Mhm.
the now, amazing idea. So we had a design by Jean-Michel Jarre, and he came to La Palma. And unfortunately, financial crisis in 2008 then killed the project, and we could continue. I was very upset. But then, every time you go down, you have more ideas, and
Yeah.
this cannot be the end. There will be something else that we can do with this brilliant idea. And then the idea of creating the festival came. I was like, all right, so 2011, we celebrate 50 years anniversary of Yuri Gagarin rides. And that's a very big deal. 50 years anniversary of the first human space ride.
Absolutely.
Then we started to talk about making this festival, right? The branding and having the 108-minute panel discussion at duration of the Gagarin flight in the GTC, doing this, doing that. And so we designed the festival, and the first one was in 2011. No money, basically, with investing our last cent and last dollar.
Yeah.
No sponsors and nothing, but very successful because we had pioneers of Apollo program.
And many important speakers at the very first Starmus, including many astronauts. Neil Armstrong was there, and many others. Buzz, I think, was there as well.
Buzz was there, Bill Anders,
Yeah.
Colin Yu.
So it started off with a bang. With
Pioneers of space race, the first space race, right? And Alexei Leonov was there, Gorbatko from the first Russian group of astronauts.
Yes.
And we were so privileged to have these guys that at Starmus and actually opening the Starmus with Neil Armstrong. And imagine we were all like, this is impossible. Even at that point, we realized that we are doing something quite incredible. So how it happened is out of nowhere, no sponsors, no support, nothing. And then suddenly you have all these guys in Tenerife and even local government, and they were shocked. I mean, no one could believe that we are actually going to do that and achieve this. We had no funds for a big concert in La Palma. Well, we went for a modest one. So we contacted Tangerine Dream.
Yes.
Pioneers of electronic music.
Yep.
They came, very nice concert with Brian, collaborating with Brian, and a small, modest production, very modest, but really nice.
Mm-hmm.
The festival was very successful. Less than 300 participants.
For the first one.
I believe that, I mean, having all these guys in Tenerife with less than 300, and out of these 300 participants, 200 came for free.
Wow.
So we actually sold only 60, 70 tickets for the festival.
Wow. Huge trees start with tiny seeds. So it's the way it goes with such things.
But we finished festival with, exhausted and huge loss, financial loss. And we said, oh, we'll never do that again. Yeah, that was nice, but that's it. finished. But then 3 years later, actually, the local government and said, well, you guys, you did this amazing festival. If you decide to do it again, we can probably support you at the level of 50% of your production, 40%.
Yes.
And then the rest you compensate from ticket sales, etc. And because there were so many people asking, yeah, you should do it again. It was amazing, and try it again. And so we decided with Brian, okay, yeah, well, let's try. Let's do once again. But 3 years later, we had to wait 3 years to do the second edition of Star Wars.
Yes.
And that one was very special because we had Stephen Hawking as our keynote speaker. Stephen came with 2 lectures, unique lectures. And Brian with a lecture with the 3D glasses for 2,000 people. And Alexei Leonov with the chalk on a blackboard and
Yes.
during this is an absolutely mind-blowing edition of Star Wars, the second one. But again, to me, it was very hard because no one was really helping me. I had volunteers, only 20 guys from Tenerife, students, basically organizing everything, all logistics. The entire festival was done with me and the guy who was helping for production and these 20 students from local university. Imagine.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
An almost superhuman task to pull off that size of an event with that.
Absolutely. With around 1,000 participants.
Yeah.
The festival was sold out. And Stephen Hawking, and because of the fame from the first edition, it was quite successful. The huge, massive media coverage. But I think the media impact was around 150 million euros. We had New York Times, we had all major mainstream media at Starmus Festival. So it was very successful. The second
It suddenly sort of exploded in some ways and had a big energy of its own to continue on then.
Absolutely. After 70 tickets, we jumped to 1,000 tickets sold out.
Yeah.
Was-
Yeah.
And Stephen was playing an important role in this because he announced the festival in his social media site, and he was already excited about Starmus because Brian told him about Starmus. They met in London. So Brian told, but he also heard about Starmus from Kip Thorne.
Yes.
Kip came to Starmus in 2011.
Yes.
When Stephen was visiting him in Caltech, Kip told him already that there was a big festival in Canary Island, amazing with Neil Armstrong. So Stephen knew about Starmus.
Yes.
So he was very much looking forward to the festival. And he liked it very much because we had all this chill out atmosphere, amazing concerts and star party, everything. And I realized that Stephen was enjoying very much all these things, with scientists, with astronauts, with musicians, and all this party atmosphere at Starmus. So he was, and then we invited him to join our advisory board, and he agreed very much. You remember you were there. You came to this one. Richard Dawkins, night, and no, everything was really perfect at the second edition of the festival. And we finished the festival by basically with a zero balance in our account. We no lose and no much, but that was a success.
You pulled off the impossible, and it all washed out in the end to an even deal. But it shook up the science world. And of course, Starmus comes from stars and music. And originally, it very much had an astronomical theme. It's broadened over many festivals now to be all of the sciences covered very, very well. And as you and as Brian have said by way of background, it's critically important as human beings. We need to exercise both hemispheres of our brain, the analytical hard science and the having fun and entertainment, rock and roll and art.
Exactly. That's actually what we always do this in Starmus. I think it's critical to bring entertainment part and somehow fuse this and merge this with the serious science, which is again delivered in a very nice way, because actually the lectures are not scientific lectures, just, for general public, right?
Any interested person who is at all into this stuff very easily gets all the lectures. They're popular level lectures, yes.
Yeah, and never kind of conference. And actually, we decided this after first edition of Starmus, because first Starmus was different. We had 45 minutes lectures, very long,
Yeah.
45-minute lectures, even with Q&A.
Yeah,
Even with
yeah.
Q&A going up to an hour. And we had very few speakers, like 20 speakers we had at the first Starmus, and very long lectures. And I realized that people get tired, no matter who is your lecturer, because then, unless you are kind of, the Neil deGrasse Tyson communicator, amazing that you can keep your audience interested during an hour, or Brian Cox or Richard Dawkins. But for most scientists, even high profile, you don't have these skills of,
Yeah.
bring keep people interested during an hour, right?
Yes.
So we decided to cut the lectures to 20 minutes,
Yes.
max 30 minutes. It was a very wise decision. So we
Yes.
could allow more lectures at Starmus, and more diversity in different branches of science.
And there are many, many lectures now. The last few Starmuses we've had, there are many lectures, and they cover all aspects of science. And we'll get to the rock and roll and the astronauts and others, but these are often Nobel Prize winners you've brought now to Starmus to give update talks on what's happening in their field or what they have done to really push human knowledge really forward.
Yeah. I think it is very important to have Nobel laureates for many reasons. First, they are always inspiring for students, and media likes them. It's a very media friendly. Yes. So they come for Nobel laureate. They have no idea what they have done. They don't even understand the work they have done. But the fact that they are Nobel laureate is like a magnetic force for media, and for many disciplines as well. Because just because the lecture is delivered by a Nobel laureate is already interesting. So people come to hear what the Nobel laureate is telling about extrasolar planets or neuroscience or whatever, right?
Yes.
And it's very good for us because we want to attract general public.
Yes,
How we
absolutely.
can attract them, saying that the speaker is a Nobel laureate is brilliant. They like that. And so that's why we always bring like 8, 10, 12 Nobel laureates at Starmus festivals, and they join panel discussions. And usually I found it very easy when you have Nobel laureates in your program, because it makes attractive to many other lecturers. They also, and you create kind of a very nice atmosphere, because the Nobel laureates are probably the most down to earth people you ever meet, because it's so easy to deal with them. You know, I guess it's kind of, when they reach to this level of size, they become very, hard to say, very modest, very
Yes.
simple, very easy to deal with.
And you see the simple humanity of all these people just sharing what they love. For people who haven't been to some, you almost need to have been there to really let this sink in. But it's really a party about science and music and fun on Earth. And it doesn't really sink into people. I've talked to people who've been there and they say, my God, you can you can talk to these great minds, Nobel Prize winners, have a drink with them, ask them what's going on. This is not someone who's off, in
Yeah.
their dimension. They're interacting with folks, and to have a party like this with the brightest folks on the planet and entertainers and people who love to have a good time with the music and with the art that we're involved. I mean, there's really nothing like this. And so many people go to Starmus and they say it really changed my life.
Absolutely, a lot. I'm so happy when after every Starmus festival, I just receive so many emails, and even people just come to shake your hands and say, "Oh my God, we've never seen anything like that. We finally met Jane Goodall. We finally met Leono. We finally met this guy," and it's so cool. And especially when you see people ask to that selfies and autographs with Nobel laureates and scientists. So this is cool. I mean, it's not an Oscar ceremony when, the people get crazy seeing Hollywood stars, but you see stars of science, which I always thought we had to have kind of an Oscar ceremony or an event so important for media and the public, so they will treat scientists as stars.
Yes.
this first time we saw this in Norway.
Yes.
In Norway, Starmus was treated like an Oscar ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
We had state television of Norway covering lectures. The Starmus lectures was live transmitted on Norwegian public TV. We've never seen this in any other country. So I said, oh my God, they really value science and education. First time we had a science camp in Norway for 75,000 people. You remember, Dave, it was so successful. Actually, Norway was also kind of a turning point for Starmus.
Yeah.
You could see what happened when politicians and the government and then universities collaborate with the festival.
Can you imagine what a world we would have if everyone everywhere, including in governments, really valued science? And we are going through no more comment is needed, at least in the United States of America. But, think of the planets that must be out there that are civilized, that are being run by people who value knowledge and friendship, as Starmus is promoting. So we're still getting there on planet Earth, but it has been an incredible journey. Some of the Starmuses, as you said, Norway was very special with all the politicians involved. Some of them have had slightly different flavors in terms of the size, the concert venues we've had, the entertainment we've done, and so on. What are some moments that stand out in your mind, Garrett?
The Switzerland was also very, Switzerland,
Yeah.
this unique Stephen Hawking medal ceremony with Hans Zimmer. This concert was absolutely outstanding.
Yes.
The vibe and Brian performing with Hans, Who Wants to Live Forever, as a tribute to Stephen Hawking, was
Incredible. Yeah.
and having the We Are the Champions with the Paul astronaut on stage with Buzz Rusty. That was my idea, actually. I remember asking Brian, we have to do We Are the Champions. And so now, but we've done it so many times. I said, no, but this is the best time to get to We Are the Champs, because we have Apollo guys and we are celebrating 50 years anniversary of Apollo program.
Yeah.
We have 6 Apollo astronauts in a venue. So we should bring them all to stage while you are singing We Are the Champions. Yeah, that was a moment, and it was incredible.
Absolutely spectacular. And there are quite a few moments at each Starmus where you kind of have to pause, exhale, and say, is this really happening? This is so extraordinary with the people who are there, the magnitude of the concerts, everything that you've set up and pulled off. It really is almost unbelievable, some moments of Starmus, because nothing else happens like it on the planet.
Right? No, certainly not. I mean, Kip Thorne is very he's very active, attending main conferences and festivals. And every time Kip comes to Starmus, he always says, "I've never seen anything even close to Starmus."
Yes.
Everything. And when you hear this from people who are very often giving lectures in different VIP events, and Kip went to Breakthrough Prize, and he said you can't compare that with Starmus. Yeah.
Wow.
And that's when they spend so much money in bringing Hollywood celebrities
Yes.
to prize and so on.
Yeah.
But he said there is it's a kind of it's too elite and it's too kind of an artificial thing. You do that. But which you don't do in Starmus, because it's always very chaotic, and Starmus is always very live, and it just happen. And because you improvise, you have no idea what's going to happen the day before at the concert, but then we suddenly rehearsals, and then we decide, all right, if Steve Vai is going to join and they're going to play that. All right, that was a decision taken just a couple of hours before the concert. So no program, and that's
spontaneity is almost unheard of like that in this world of entertainment and planning and everything. And I think I remember, I think it was in Switzerland, Hans Zimmer said, think of the awards he's won, the scores that he's written of films. He said, I've never seen anything like this in my life. I absolutely mean it. That was pretty stunning to hear from him too.
And then we went to Armenia, from Switzerland to Armenia.
Yes.
Completely different atmosphere, like a different planet, right? And after COVID,
Yeah.
because COVID and many festivals went down.
Yeah.
We emerged in Armenia with an incredible, very different, incorporating all this national flavor with the music, local music, and so on. And the taste of Starbucks was really different and very unique, actually. So most lecturers say they've never seen anything like Starbucks in Armenia.
Really different, and it's such a beautiful place. I had never been there before. It's such a beautiful, safe, clean, neat city, Yerevan, and the excursions we took outside of it and everything, and it's special. It's your ancestral homeland.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, the reason that I grew up in Armenia,
Yeah.
the fact that I grew up in Armenia was key for success of Starmus in Armenia. Because knowing well Armenian music and culture and things that I perfectly knew what we need in a program,
Yes.
how we have to incorporate this or that music. So I was acting like a musical director of Stardust in Armenia because with Stuart and Brian, we were all the time like, no, we don't need this. That we have to get this case to do the choir, and we need this orchestra and to come up with these guys, and it's so entertaining, and I like that very much, and I was enjoying a lot. Again, as always, during the festival, there's so much tension because you millions of things in your brain. You have to a lot of things, but even doing that, even you sleep 3 hours a day or even not that, you all get so much energy because you are looking forward of something very unique. And you know that tomorrow is going to happen that. And next day we have a star party in this amazing temple, 2000 years old. So
Yes.
and then next day we are doing that. And so and everything works and everything was perfect, you enjoy the whole process. Even if you collapse afterwards, even if there are, you still have to pay this, you have to sort out many other things. But the success of the festival is so big that it compensates everything else which comes afterwards.
It is the best possible week every time we hold it, in which you can possibly not get quite enough sleep. It is sensational, and you're going fast and loving every minute of it, and you can always sleep the week after Starmus.
Yeah, and I'm used to this because, I'm an astronomer. I spend hundreds of nights at the observatory in telescopes, for weeks observing.
Now, I have a little bit of a surprise. I want to transist a little bit into talking about our plans, what you're thinking for this year's Starmus, which is going to happen later this year in October in Tenerife and La Palma again, which is close to your home, which is your home base there. But there's a little bit of a possibility I have. I'm working with these guys in New Mexico, and they have, believe it or not, a couple of Clyde Tombaugh's telescopes. The fellow who discovered Pluto ended up with those. They've rebuilt them into Dobsonians and so on. We have a lot of things we're going to be doing around here with projects observing people star parties in Tucson here in the mountains, because for a big city, it does have a lighting code. It's not hopelessly bad, the light pollution here. And we're going to be doing some other outreach things, and we're doing this program now that we're going to share everywhere. But one of the things they really love is they're creating down there in New Mexico simulated lunar and Martian landscapes with some craters that are excavated. And the woman who's running this project, believe it or not, she's a spectacular engineer and planner who has done various things with Universal Hollywood and Universal Florida, chiefly as well. The Wizarding World of Harry Potter, the rides and experiences there and so on. So anyway, we're hoping that we will have an experience in which school children all over can dial in, and they can run a rover around the lunar landscape or the Martian landscape, which is actually in New Mexico, but it'll give them sort of a look at what the future might be with space exploration. So this is possible. I think these people insisted that I mention this to you. It's possible because they have access to these things, Garik. Bring a robotic dog and a robotic person that are state of the art to Starmus.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know if this is something you want a robot to walk out and introduce someone or not, but
We can take the robot
yeah,
to National Park of Teide. It was the landscape very much lunar and Martian.
that's a great idea. So anyway, so
We have to do.
for later this year.
Yeah.
But again, we have a great program and we're just starting to accumulate speakers and announce them in groups and so on for this year. But it'll be held again in Tenerife, and we'll have a trip for some at least to the GTC, which, if they slow down a little bit in Chile, will still be the largest telescope in the world for some time to come.
Yeah, the Chile will be in 29, still at least 3 years to go.
Sure, and it's the Southern Hemisphere, of course, too, so it's a little different sky coverage than the Canaries. But you have announced, just a few days ago, quite a number of speakers who include Brian May, who will be in there, and we have a number of our board members will also be included. Tony Fidel is a friend and a very influential inventor and technologist. He'll be there as well. Kip Thorne, our good pal, I think is planning to be there too, who is just one of the great guys in the world of science.
Yeah.
And I think we will plan to have Martin Rees there as well, the Astronomer Royal of England again. And we also will have a pal of ours in the States here who's a great guy, Alan Stern.
Of course.
He'll be speaking. He's a close friend. We might want to talk one of our Nobel Prize laureates, and forgive me, I just want to walk through some of these because it's already, even on the first announcement, a pretty impressive group of people here.
Right.
Garik, of course, you'll be hosting, and I hope I'll be involved with some of the hosting as well. Michelle Mayor, your close friend and associate, will be there as well. Again, he discovered the first extrasolar planet, a sun-like orbiting a sun-like star. We will have our old friend Jannica Mikkelsen, astronaut, there. She's great. Bernard Skolkoff, one of the great authorities on AI in the world from the Max Planck Institute in Germany, will be there. And his friend Philip Torr, Joel Parker, our good pal, who's a friend of Alan Stern's planetary scientist, Pluto guy, will be there. So, and I only mentioned about a third of the people who I sort of know best, but that's already, there's been a big announcement of speakers, and that's just the start, isn't it, Garik?
That's just the start. And we have a keynote, a godfather of AI, Jeffrey Hinton. That's a very thing, because today AI is the main.
It's changing everything before our eyes. Yeah.
And Hinton is one of those who speak about the future of humanity, how it will be affected by AI. These messages are close to what Stephen Hawking was saying about the future of humanity and so on.
Yes.
We always, at every Starmus, we have someone, we had Hawking and then we had Jane Goodall. And this time, probably Jeffrey Hinton will be the one to speak about the future of, and Martin Rees as well, because they both are very similar.
In a sort of a big philosophical sense, as far as where we're going as humanity together here. Yeah.
And we also invited philosophers, and we have a presence of ocean scientists and ecologists, and we committed I think it was in Slovakia when we announced that at every Starmus we will have many lectures about life on Earth.
Yes, and we have a particular focus and interest on that in part because of Jane's involvement, but we really treat all of the science, physics, chemistry, biology, they're all very well represented by speakers. And Garik, we now have two medals. This is a big moment for Starmus, and fortunately we were with Jane last year, and it was, terribly awful, sad news that we lost her several months ago. But she was not only a genius, brilliant woman, getting to talk to her and so on, but the nicest person in the world you could imagine as well. And so now we have two medals to honor Stephen Hawking and also Jane Goodall in association with Starmus.
So this year we will do first award ceremony of Jane Goodall third medals.
Yes.
That's a very big deal for Starmus.
Yes.
We already had so much work with Stephen Hawking medal.
Yeah.
With and this is already 10 years anniversary of the Stephen Hawking medal we're celebrating now. And with this celebration, we also announced first Jane Goodall Earth Medal award ceremony. So it's a kind of a second phase of Starmus. So I always think that
branching out into this world of earth and nature, if you will. You mean, Garik?
we had this 15 years of evolution of the festival, basically establishing the brand and making sure that the Starmus is a very respected brand.
Yes.
Reputation. And we kind of, we managed somehow to carry on with Stephen Hawking medal for 10 years, really bringing the level of the Hawking medal as high as we can.
Yeah.
Really very respectful. And now we also turn to Jane Goodall Earth Medal. So somehow we became an institution where we never realized that we are no longer simply a festival. We are a kind of an institution now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to the second phase of Starmus is as an institution, not as a festival.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to start it now. We actually started already this process. You know that?
Yes.
So we're discussing this for the last couple of months. But
yes,
I think it's a very important stage for Starmus now, especially now. And we have many ideas for the future. We have many things going on.
Yes.
And as always, things happen, sometimes you feel you are down and you don't have energy. There's so many problems and people come and go and, things happen. But always, if the message is there and you have energy, your commitment is there, and we have amazing advisory board, and we are well synchronized with you, with Ryan, and we perfectly know what we are doing, actually, what we want to do, our steps. And then we just do it. And
it's very exciting. And we're looking forward to this edition. We're going to be back in Tenerife. It's going to be October, I believe it's the 17th through the 22nd October. And of course, people can see everything about the festival, and there'll be much more announced in stages on starmus.com, of course. And with Astronomy Magazine and other areas, we'll be pushing all this publicity out as well and getting people excited. Just to step back to one thing, Starmus is sort of one of the most brilliant, ongoing, successful experiments, I think, that I've ever known about. Look at that. Jean with
King.
live in Bratislava. Wow.
Live in Bratislava, vinyl, and the DVD set.
And we must mention that, because you showed that. Now, that was a concert that we had for the public that was outside of the Starmus facility in a very big arena. And it was a huge show. It was an incredible success. How did that come about with Brian and with Jean-Michel? Jean-Michel is also on our board now.
Exactly. Yeah. That was a long dream. I mean, old dream for 2007, 2008. And again, and I have to say, it was a very important effort from ESET, the cybersecurity company, they committed to do the festival, and they put the Starmus in Slovakia, and the concert of Jean-Michel Jarre was incredible. And then I was very happy to see a company who are interested in supporting science and science communication and so on. And they came to Starmus Armenia, they saw the festival, they got very excited, and they brought Starmus to Slovakia. And I hope Slovakia will appreciate this very much, because it's not very often you have one single company financing a festival.
Yes.
In Slovakia.
Huge undertaking.
And we did our best. We built an amazing program, incredible pitch speakers, and a very nice concerts. Starmus did everything possible for Slovakia edition of Starmus.
Yes.
And they did also their best for financing and doing this. So it was a very nice collaboration with Desert, and the product of this collaboration, of course, is this album of Jean.
Yeah. What a happy result that is, huh? Because that was an incredible night that people who were there know what I mean. They're never going to forget that. It was really remarkable.
Absolutely.
Now, what do you see? I don't want to give away any secrets here, Garik, but what do you see in Starmus's future? Is it possible that we move around a bit and change the character of things? We seem to be in a very comfortable place in the Canaries there this last time and this current year. But I know there's a lot of interest elsewhere of people who would love to bring Starmus to where they are.
I think moving Starmus around is good. I mean, personally, think we gain a lot of stuff for Starmus, and it's a
Yeah.
very good experience for us, and traveling is good. So I think we will keep traveling. We will
Yeah,
keep
yeah, yeah.
different, especially going to US will be very interesting to have a very big edition of Starmus in the US.
Yes.
That we will change the format of the festival because the format that we have now and that we have been doing this for already 10 years with the same format,
Yeah.
basic conference and the ceremony with the big concert, the star party size, and it's
Yeah.
actually brilliant for them, and I love it. And so far, we see no reason to change the structure of the Spartans and the format of the festival.
Sure, and it works beautifully well. And when so many people come away with this, say, I can't believe I just went through this. There's nothing else like this. It feels like I was in a dream. I think you're doing something right with the format.
Structure and the format. We will inject probably more power, I mean, more funds and in the marketing and social media stuff, but it's just depend on funds,
Sure.
and then we can do that. So
Sure.
the format of the festival and the global message and what we have is intact. I think we will keep that and we will carry on with what we have. We can still expand. We can do Starmus lectures. We can do many other things, to keep the festival active
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
not just to buy annual event, even annual event, but do some other things, right?
Between the festivals.
Between the festivals, we can always do that. But the festival format is very good. Is our format? Is that what we have invented? This
Yeah.
actually, I don't know any other festival, science festival, doing what we actually do.
Yeah.
Or it's a format. Not, of course, we have incredible lineup and artists and so on. But the format is also unique.
Yes.
The format is quite unique.
There's nothing else like it at all. Yeah.
No,
In the neuroscience and probably in a lot of other worlds. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So this is how I see it.
Yeah, excellent. Garrett,
Yeah.
what is the thing that I don't want to put you on the spot, but what is the thing that you would say to someone who's never been to Starmus, who's thinking of coming to their first Starmus? Because it really is sort of hard to describe the sort of, the uniqueness of it, the grandeur of it in big, entertaining ways, the quality of the speakers, and yet the intimacy of it, of talking to people, of meeting people there. All those things are combined. What would you say to someone who is coming to Starmus or wants to come to Starmus for the first time?
I would say it's a really life-changing experience. Quite a life-changing experience. Not only because you see these incredible lectures and so much high-quality stuff in such a short time scale.
Yes.
That's quite impressive. That you hear in a couple of days so many amazing people like Jed, right? And that's one thing. And then the atmosphere, the people who you meet who come from different parts of the world, you make lots of friends and friends who share the same values. They are in the same, that's also very nice.
Mhm.
And the third thing that you have a chance to meet and talk to all these amazing scientists because what Starmus does, and it's quite important, we never separate our lecturers and musicians in a separate VIP thing. They are always with participants.
Mhm.
Coffee and something, they always share the same space. And that's also quite important. You may remember at Starmus too, we organized book signing.
Yes.
Starmus And the book signing was with Brian, with Charlie Duke, with Alexei Leonov.
Yes.
A lot of guys couldn't believe that this is free.
Yeah. Yeah.
They couldn't imagine that they had book signing with Charlie Duke, Alexei Leonov, and Brian, and that's for free.
Yeah.
So
It's
that
stunning
those
to
things
people.
happen in
Yeah.
Starmus. We always do. So it's kind of a philosophy that you do everything for participants, basically.
Yes.
Always that what else I can do for them.
And sharing that knowledge, sharing that joy of what we love doing as humans, sharing the love, if you will.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
You put yourself in a situation of a normal participant. That, all right, so I'm coming to Starmus. What I will take with me from the festival.
Yes.
Which experiences I will take. All right, the concert and the medal ceremony and this and that and the star party.
Yeah.
And these nice excursions always to observatories, and you visit there. So it all combined in 1 week. It's a very dense experience.
But it's fantastic every moment, and it's such an injection of pure joy and knowledge, if you will. It keeps you going as a person. It's good for the soul for a long time to come, for months, till the next Starmus, yeah.
Absolutely.
So it really is enriching for people in that way. And if you've never been to it, you don't quite fully probably get it just hearing that. When you go through that, you get it because it's really incredibly special. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Garik, thank you so much for joining me today. I think we've covered everything pretty well. I'd love to have you come back sometime as things get closer. We have maybe some more details to talk about, and we'll do this maybe a little bit again and circulate more PR about the festival in a way that people will love to hear.
Thanks very much, David. Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks so much, Garik, and we'll talk soon. Thanks for everything you do along with Brian to make the Starmus Festival what it is.
And I thank you for your help and support for 10 years.
Of course. Yeah, yeah.
Thanks very much, David.
Talk to you soon, pal. Take care. Bye. Well, thanks for joining us this time for a really unique Off-World with David Eicher. If you'd like more information on Starmus, go to starmus.com. And we'll be talking a lot more about Starmus as the year rolls on. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.